Hey everybody, it's Marvina. I wanted to welcome you to my class today. Today we're going to be talking about smoke and fire divination. So I hope that if you have any questions, just put them in the comments below, and I'll see if I can answer them later on in our session. If you want to light a candle while we're doing our class today, that is a great way to kind of align yourself, especially with the subject. Anytime that you're working with fire, you want to be very, very respectful of the element of fire, and always do your best when you light a candle to light a candle with intention and with recognition of the element of fire, because fire is one of those things that it can be a blessing, or it could be seen as a curse too. You can use the element of fire to fix your supper at night, and you could also use the element of fire to burn the house down. So it has so much potential that it absolutely boggles the mind, the potential of the element of fire. I think it's great to keep a balance with your elements whenever you're doing a reading of some sort. But in the case today, since we're really focusing on the particularly the fire element, but also the air, because we are bringing in the element of air with our smoke divination. This is also known as pyromancy or capnomancy. And I think these go back to a Greek word that the capno is about the smoke, and then the macy goes back to a root word of divination, and then pyro, of course, is fire. So they go back a long time. Back in the caveman days, I think the people were gathering around a fire, and they were trying to divine their place in the world. Are they going to be safe from the dinosaurs? Are they going to have enough food to get through the winter? All of the very basic things, and what they were concerned about: their food supply, their safety, their place in the tribe, their place in the community. And sometimes they might have sort of gone outside of that and wondered about their connection to the divine. Is there a divine? Is there something more? And so they used the elements that they had around them. And we can still do that to this very day. We can interpret anytime that we have a question. I believe that it goes out to the universe, and the universe strives to answer that question through what is available to you at the time. And that might be the trees around you. It might be a little bird that happens to be close. It might be the smoke coming off of the campfire. It might be a candle that you lit to kind of brighten up the room. It might be through your 3-year-old child. Anytime that you have a question, as long as you're open to receiving the truth of the answer, and we're not always open to that, but when you are open to the truth, especially, the universe will move heaven and earth to give you a little bit of a clue or an outright answer. A lot of times we will observe that, but all too often we sort of blow it off and like, oh, I'm just making that up, or I'm seeing what I want to see, or I'm seeing something, but I don't want to believe that. So too many times we sort of talk ourselves out of the answer to the question. But I really do believe that the universe will make an effort to get an answer to you by one way or another. So when we're looking at using the elements of fire and smoke, we want to really open our mind to sort of going with whatever it is that we're perceiving or that we're intuitively sensing out of that element. So if we're sitting by a campfire and we're just wondering about, how a certain romance is going to go with some guy that we just started dating, and we just we really want to get a sense of the viability of this relationship. Is it something that I should continue to put my effort and my energy into and make time for this person? Or is it something that's sort of a fly-by-night thing? And as we're looking into the fire can sort of put us into a bit of a hypnotic state of consciousness or an altered state of consciousness. So that kind of allows us some discernment beyond our physical senses of validation. It allows us to tap into the bigger picture, maybe the bigger picture of what our own soul wanted to witness and wanted to experience while we're here in this lifetime, and maybe to connect on over to that man that we've had on our mind and the overall big picture that his soul really wanted to witness in this lifetime. And so we might just get a lot of crackling and popping out of the fire, and you really want to hone in on every little nuance. And if that fire, if you've had this question on your mind and you want to know how this relationship is going to go, then, and if the fire is like cracking and popping and spitting a whole bunch of embers all over the place, then that is an indication that it's going to be a fiery relationship. And I don't mean it's not going to be like in a good way, but more of an explosive relationship that is, full of fussing and fighting and anger and frustration, and just kind of the energy is all over the place. And it's really not something that you want. If I were divining that, then I would kind of feel like, I don't know that this person is really the right temperament for me. We're going to be clashing and at odds all of the time. If the fire is like very steady and it just it's solid, and you feel really content with it, and you feel like nurtured by it and sustained by it, then that is more of a sign that this person will be warm, will be somebody that you will really get along with, and that you'll get a good sense of kind of a symbiotic relationship. You'll feel comfortable, you'll feel nurtured and safe and warm in their presence. When you would be looking at the smoke that was coming off of the fire and you had this question, then if the smoke was like really billowing and dark and it was like in your face, that is more of a kind of a negative answer to your question, that the energy might be toxic, especially. That is one way that I would read that, is that it's a very toxic relationship and more of an in-your-face kind of relationship. People have been using candle magic and fire and smoke divination for eons of time. And to this day, we use candle magic, and there are mothers all over the country that are setting a birthday cake in front of their children, and they're putting the candles on there, and they're singing to them, and they are, blow out the candles and make a wish. That is a perfect example of candle magic. And sometimes people blow out their candles and they don't all go out. And to me, that's a sign that their wish is not going to come true when the candles don't blow out all of the way. By the way, I really don't recommend blowing out your candles. If you do have to do a birthday thing and blow out the candles, always talk to the element of fire silently and just say, thank you, fire spirits. I appreciate your effort here on my behalf. Because to blow out a fire or like a candle it's an insult to the element of fire. And just like I talked to you a while ago, you never want to insult the element of fire because it can come back and bite you in the butt. So always be respectful. If you do have to endure a birthday celebration with a cake and a lot of candles, then after you blow it out, acknowledge the element of fire, and you can do that silently and just say thank you, fire spirits. And that way you are you're showing the element of fire that you are respectful. The proper way to blow out a candle is to use something to pinch it out. So like you can smother it out with a knife, like a butter knife, or you can even pinch the flame of the candle. It won't hurt you if you pinch it really fast. And then also there are some of those little, it's like a little bell and it's on a stick, and you can use that to smother out your candle as well. But it's more appropriate to smother them out than to blow them out. And one of the best ways is to let the candles burn down themselves, which isn't very practical on a birthday cake. But if you're going to set up a candle that's like while you're watching TV at night, it's good if you can let it burn down itself. If you can't, then the proper way to put it out is to smother it rather than to blow it out. I like to use these little bitty tea candles because they have a 2-hour lifespan. And so I know I can keep an eye on them for 2 hours. But I have burned many, many candles in my lifetime successfully. I just make sure that the space where I'm burning them is very, like, there's not any debris that could fall into the flame. Because I'm going to tell you what, if something can happen and you have a lot of chaos in your life and you're not being very aware of the elements, then your candle could get knocked over and you could set the house on fire. So always make sure your space where you are setting up your candle is there's not a lot of like paper around it or anything that's flammable, and just kind of set yourself up for success. One of the ways that I used to set a candle up is to put it in a container like a cooking, like a kind of like a sheet dish, like a 2-inch cake dish. And you can put water in the bottom of it if you want to. You can even place it in the bathtub if you really feel like you need to burn a candle for a long time and you just want to make sure that you can walk away and do some other things and not just be in the same room watching the candle all of the time. Before I got into more of the candles and the fire divination, I wanted to also bring up the idea of the Catholic Church. You know, every day people go into the church and they take their little candle and they pray over whatever subject is on their mind, and they light their candle and they place it on the altar in the church. This is a perfect example of a fire divination or a fire magic. Probably the Catholic Church would not agree with that, and but I think it is a perfect example that when you have something on your mind and you really feel like you need to do something, when you are invoking the elements into your prayer, the elements are part of creation, and they are a part and parcel of Creator's design. And when we call upon those elements, we are really, we're drawing like some heavy hitters behind us. And it's kind of like power. When you need something really bad, you have somebody that you're very worried about, you take that power out of your back pocket and you light a candle and you pray about whatever it is that is on your mind. So ideally, or a good way, it's not the only way, but it is a good way, is that, say, for instance, you had somebody in your family that was really sick, or one of your special animals was sick. You can take your little tea candle, and what I like to do first of all is draw their name into the candle. And like if you have a long name like mine, it would take a lot of candle to draw in Marvina. So you could just put like the M in there too, and then through the Hermetic laws of similarities, you declare that this candle would now represent that person. So like, for instance, if I was wanting to say a prayer for my father, whose name is Marvin, I could draw an M in this candle. And you could also draw in or carve in maybe a protective symbol that really is meaningful to you. So for some people, that might be the sign of a cross. You might put a 5-pointed star in there. That's what I like to put in. And it's, to me, the symbol of the 5-pointed star represents the descent of the Holy Spirit into form through earth, air, fire, and water. So you have that idea of the journey of the soul into form. So you can carve into your candle whatever feels right to you. So obviously, if you had a bigger candle, you have more room, and you could maybe put in, something else with your whatever you feel appropriate. I like to use a little knife. This is, I don't know if you can see it very well here, but this is a knife that I only use for prayer and magical purposes. So I don't use it for anything else. And I don't let other people handle it. So the only person's energy that is on it is mine. So you can just use this to draw in your name. But for a long time, I used a tiny pocket knife. Like it was like 2 or 3 inches long. And you always want to do a prayer and blessing and consecration of your knife. And you can do a little blessing to your candle as well. So you could hold it up to the element of air. Please bless this this candle today with your essence, the element of water, of earth, and then you're going to light it, and that is blessing it to the fire spirits. So after you have carved your the name of the person or the animal into the candle, it's really good to put a little bit of you into that. And there's a lot of ways that you can look at that. You could hold it up to your heart and just imbue that candle with your love. Just ask that the heart energy be infused into this candle, that you're blessing it with as much love as you can. You could also put a little bit of your saliva, just lick your finger and rub it over the candle. Another thing that I like to use is an oil. So any kind of oil that you want to. My favorite is jasmine oil is my ultimate favorite. My second favorite is rose oil. So you could use like a cooking oil. Olive oil is a very popular one for dressing a candle, but just about any kind of oil. And you can actually rub it all over the candle. If you want to, you can take it out of the little tin and rub the sides and the bottom of it. And another thing that I forgot to tell you is before you do any of this, take it to the sink and run cold water over it. That is a good way to get any icky energy off of it that it might have gathered during production or in your house. So you always want to clean your candles and then just dry them off with a cloth, and then you can dress them. But the oils are another element of kind of good juju into your magic. There's many different essences that can enhance the action and the total action of your fire divination. So I really like to use different oils. And there is a awesome book. Let me see if I can find my notes there. The name of the book is The Candle Magic Workbook. And the lady, or it's actually a couple who wrote this book. Their names are Kayla and Katz Pagion. And so I think it's spelled Pajeon. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but it is loaded with little tips of fire divination and smoke divination, and how to really set up a candle so that you can use that candle to divine an outcome. Like if your father is going to have a good outcome over a surgery or procedure that's coming up, or if one of your animals is going to pull through an illness, it can help to give you a sense of the outcome. It can also lend the energy of the element of fire, especially, to that person. So a lot of times when people are sick, they're not balanced. And so by offering them like a boost of energy from, especially if you can figure out which element they are particularly weak in, then that's a really good way to kind of imbue them and help them to push through a certain type of situation. But the fire element is very primordial. It has a lot of oomph that it can add to that person and kind of help them to push over or get over the hump of a serious condition. So that's one of the reasons that we go to a church and we take a candle and we burn it in their behalf, is so that we can offer not only our prayer, but, and we may not know it, but we are offering the element of fire to help that person push past whatever problem it is that they've got going on. So I really recommend that book. It has a lot of different little simple processes that you can easily use in a fire and smoke divination, and combine certain types of candle colors with the different dressings, like the different oils that you can use, that can just add a couple of more elements. So not only would you be adding the element of fire, but if you added a certain color, then that can enhance the prayer, the magic that you're doing, the divination. And then you add another element of an herbal or an oil, then that just gives it like another little boost in their behalf. I think it's great to keep your own notes and to be okay with being experimental, because I have burned like a lot of different candles for different situations and got good results. with several different combinations. So don't feel like if you're wanting to divine a raise for your job and burn a candle on that behalf, that you have to use a green candle and you have to use a Jupiter oil or a certain oil. There are many different combinations. Always the intention in your mind and how you're able to hold a visualization for your outcome is really paramount, and it's going to be like the turning point. I think one thing that that you might figure out down the road, but I've figured out, is that anytime that we use a tool of divination like the smoke or the fire or the tarot cards or the crystals or whatever it is, that we are always the most magical instrument that we're ever going to have access to. And we are so multidimensional, it's crazy. It is really out of our box to really understand the potential that each and every one of us have. And I know some of you people that are listening to this, that you're doubting, like, oh, I don't know about that. But if we can get a grasp of our own potential, then we'll realize that we can use tools and they can be a really awesome springboard. But honestly, the magic is all like right here. It's in your mind. It's in your energy field, in your it's in your DNA, as an aspect of the divine mind. Each and every one of us, we hold all of the potential of that grand aspect. So we are a microcosm in the macrocosm, and we have that potential totally within us. And it doesn't matter what anybody has told you. A lot of times when we are working a self-mastery path or a spiritual path, we have to forget a whole lot of what people taught us in the past. And especially our image makers, like our teachers, even our parents, and people that might have meant well, and they might have taught us what they thought was right or what they thought was best, but that doesn't mean that it was right or that it was best for you. So a lot of times we have to totally forget what we think we know. And to me, that is known as emptying the cup. When you come to a teacher, you empty your cup. And even though you might feel like, I have a lot of experience in this department and I kind of know a little bit about it. If you empty your cup when you go to that teacher, then the teacher can fill it up. But if you come to the teacher and your cup is full, then what are they going to do? What are they going to give you? Your cup is full. You know it all. So always practice emptying your cup on a regular basis, and the universe looks at you and they're like, wow, your cup is empty. We're just going to fix that and find someone that can help fill up your cup again. And I think one of the best ways of emptying your cup is by sharing what has worked for you to other people. So this is one way that I'm emptying my cup in this teaching today on candle and smoke divination, is that I'm emptying my cup to you. I'm sharing with you the things that have worked for me and that have brought some blessing to me, some inspiration, some encouragement, some luck, maybe opportunity, and that has helped me through some tough times. Another example that I wanted to share with you of a candle and a smoke divination of a ceremony that brought just a huge sense of relief was a long time ago. One of my clients was going through a divorce, and her ex-husband had decided that he wanted to sue for full custody of their daughter. And so my client was in a complete, utter meltdown because she knew this man. She knew that he did not want the child, really. He never wanted the baby to begin with. The only reason that he wanted to have custody, well, there was a couple, but one of them, he didn't want to pay alimony. But the real one is that his new wife, and particularly her family, decided that it was proper that he would have custody of his daughter, and raise the daughter rather than the ex-wife. So my client came to me and we did a candle and fire divination. And this was probably the most extreme ceremony that I've ever done, but the payoff was great, I have to tell you. But we went to a lot of effort to think through all of the players that were involved in this whole scenario. So you have, and we got a candle to represent each of the players in there. And intuitively, that's where you can use white. And I think that's always like a good basic little color or basic choice. And you can just assign that candle to a particular party in the situation. So we had the child, we had the ex-husband, the ex-husband's new wife, the ex-husband's new father-in-law and new mother-in-law, and in particular, we kind of felt like those were the instigators. We had a candle for my client, for her husband, her current husband, and for her child. And we also had one for the judge. And so we had about 8 candles, and we used a different color for almost all of them. And so I let my client choose the colors and choose the candles. And then we drew their names with our knife here, just like this. We drew the name onto each of the candle, and we dressed each of them with a little bit of a different oil, and I don't remember, which oils that we used. One of the things I remember most is that we used a pretty good size, substantial candle. It was a little bigger for the judge in there, and we used a pink candle for her daughter, and I think we used rose oil for the daughter. But each one of the candles, we took the time to deliberately say, okay, this candle, by the Hermetic laws of similarities, I now declare that this candle represents the judge, say, Blackington, in this court case regarding my daughter. And then you dress your candle with your oil, and you just intend that this candle will represent that person, and just let it be. Don't feel like you have to overthink that, or that it can be that simple. So we did every person that was in that whole scenario, we assigned a candle to them. And you know how little boys will like set up their little toy soldiers with a war game. We just set our candles in front in a little circle, and we called in the elements and the powers, and we just did a really simple ceremony. And we asked that the angels would protect us while we did the ceremony, and we asked that all of the angels and the guides and teachers that in particular that worked with us, but also that worked with her daughter, and all of the individuals involved, that they would be present and that they would assist in this fire and smoke divination for the highest soul good of all parties concerned. So when you make that declaration, especially of all parties concerned in the highest and best soul good, that is a great sort of kind of like an insurance, and it's a protective statement. It's a declaration. it is a way that we are stepping into our power, but we're not doing it to acquire something, information that could be used against anybody. So when you make that declaration in the highest soul good, then it's like the universe knows that you're using these elements and your power, that you're doing it with integrity and with impeccability. So after we did our little circle, then we lit all of the candles, and we just kind of stepped back and watched the magic, watched the smoke from the candles. We watched the fire on each of the candles, and it was really amazing the way they had different personalities. Like the candle for the judge was solid, it was strong, and it flickered towards my client. So I mean, it leaned towards her side of the magic, and and here was the one that was truly the kicker, is the family involved behind her ex-husband's new in-laws. The parents, we did a candle for each of his mother-in-law and his father-in-law. The candle flame on his father-in-law, when we lit it up, it sputtered, and it kind of flamed up. It had like a little shooting spark, and then it went out. And there was no draft in the room. There was no good reason for that candle to go out. So you read everything in a smoke and fire divination. You interpret everything. And when a candle goes out, there is a reason that it's going out usually. And it's that whatever you're working with, it's like now's not the time, or there's not enough energy in this situation, that it hasn't been thought out well enough. So for whatever reason, it's not a good sign. And so you always add your intuition into whatever it is that is going on. And the candle flame for her ex-husband was very meager, like it was just barely burning. It was just like the tiniest of a flame. And the candle for the mother-in-law was like barely burning. So we knew, when we watched, for one thing, we watched the way the father-in-law, the candle went out. He was the money behind this new trial. Like, he's the one that wanted to bring the lawsuit in and wanted to put out the energy and the effort to sue for custody for their new granddaughter. And so we knew that whenever his flame went out, that he was not going to put a lot more effort and energy into it. It was like he had this bright idea, but then whenever push came to shove, and he realized that the lawyers were not going to pursue this for free, and that it was going to cost a lot of money to kind of push this through the system, he was like, I'm not so interested anymore. And so we watched all of the candle flames on her former husband's side. They just kind of went out, they flickered out, or they were not burning very very brightly. The energy of what we were doing was all on her side of the candle working. And so we felt very, very confident that the way we interpreted the flames on the candles and the smoke, it was leaning towards her side of the court battle. And so we felt very good about this, but the story's not over. I want to tell you the rest of it because I just think it's so cool. So we closed our ceremony. You always want to acknowledge the everybody that you invited into it. So the angels, the elements, the powers, the elements of earth, air, fire, and water, and the Holy Spirit. So then you close your circle, and I always recommend that you get something to eat and drink after you do a working, and that's what we call this, is a working. You could call it whatever you want to, but we call it a working. And we went to get something to eat, and so we're sitting there in the restaurant, and the craziest thing is a waiter came to us, and he was this just gorgeous young guy. He was about 25, and his name was Merlin. What are the odds? Like, I have never met a Merlin in my whole life. The only Merlin that I know is one of my spirit guides who was connected with King Arthur. Is one of the higher magic guides that I work with. But what are the odds of meeting a Merlin at On the Border? So we're both a little bit, anytime you do a big working like that, you're going to likely get into a bit of an altered state of consciousness, and it might be a while before you really get yourself grounded, and that's why we wanted to get something to eat. But anyhow, we put in our order, and both of us were in sort of a hurry. And so we told him that we're starving, but we're in a hurry. And Merlin, the waiter, said, "Ladies, just sit back and let the magic happen." That just gave us goosebumps, like both of us, because to us, we already felt really good about our working, and just the way the flames interacted, and the way the judges, the flame on his candle, the way it leaned towards her side of the court, and the way that the father-in-laws went out, and the ex-husbands was never, it never really fired up good at all. It was totally just this little teeny, barely there. And so we just felt good about that. But whenever you have Merlin is saying, "Let the magic happen," I mean, who says that? It was crazy. And so as it turns out, exactly the way we had divined that with our little candle working is that her ex-husband had no desire to have full custody of the daughter. He was just trying to make his new wife happy, and particularly her in-laws, because they were, sort of, I don't know, I guess aggressive, and just thought, this is the way you should live your life, and we want her, with you. And so he was not interested to begin with. So once the money bags pulled out, and the judge was already, he was already on her side because she'd had custody, and the ex-husband had never expressed an interest in custody before now. So the judge was already like, what's going on with this now? But anyhow, it turned out like that. To me, the reason I told you that story is that this client of mine was a mess. I mean, she was totally a hysterical mess when we went into our ceremony. And the reason I just feel like you can get some good out of this is that I know that whenever she left our working, and we had all of that come through, that she felt better. That's my point, is that she felt like, okay, there's hope. There's hope. So that's why I wanted to share that story with you. So if you have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I will see if I can answer them here while we're talking. It's sort of hard for me to see them down there. I can see some of you in there, but the type's really small, so I can't see it very well. So some of the colors that are useful for different purposes are whenever you're burning a candle, you can always use a white candle. Don't feel like it's a bad thing to use a black candle. It's like to me it's not like an evil color, so don't let it sway you. Like a black candle can be really useful for protection, and it can be useful for a lot of different purposes. So don't feel like, oh my God, it's a black candle, there's some bad juju going down, because it doesn't necessarily mean that. You can burn a purple candle to help you kind of access some higher levels of awareness, of wisdom. You can burn a blue candle to assist with communications. If you feel like you and your partner are just not really communicating your ideas the way you want to, you can fire up a blue candle and just hold it to your heart, and just let your heart talk into the candle. Like, I really would like to create a better connection, a better relationship, and a better sense of communication. And I call upon the essence of fire to assist me with divining maybe the ideas of why I'm not communicating with my husband or my partner the way I want to, and maybe what I can do to sort of turn this around. And so you put your dressing on it, you put your oil on it, and there are many different kinds of oils. And if you don't have any, then you can just get some oil out of your kitchen cupboard and get a little olive oil. You just rub it between your hands, and you just ask that the essence, the energy of this oil be infused into your candle, and for your highest soul good. And then you carve in, maybe you can carve in your initial and his initial, or hers, or however that works. And if you want to, if you have like a personal sign that really resonates to you, then you can carve that on, and then ask the element of fire to be present and to bring to you some ideas that can inspire you and help to turn this around. And then you light your candle. I really like to let a candle burn out by itself, and usually I will place it on a container that is safe, like a plate that you can use, or a dish, like a baking dish. But if you're going to light your candles, it's always good to keep an eye on them and be very mindful of your candle and very protective, because it can go south really quick. The candles that you want to light for like prosperity or opportunities or abundance, a green candle is awesome. The color of money, of course, but purple is another candle color that you can write, or not write, but that you can light for bringing opportunities and prosperity. And you can also use a white candle. Use your imagination, use your creativity. A white candle is a great choice to get clarity on a situation. A red candle, you can light that if you want to spice up your love life. You can also use a red candle if your health is kind of like low chi and you want to create a more vibrant health. You can light either a green or a red candle. There are many choices. There's many different ways that you can go for that. You can fire up a pink candle if you want to bring like a gentle love into a situation, or a very nurturing love. Use your imagination, use your creativity. And I tell you what, the best book that I ever read on this subject is the one I told you about a while back, that the Candle Magic Workbook. It's not very big. I don't think it's very expensive. Maybe, I don't know, $20 or so. I think it's you might be able to find it like in the half price bookstores, but Amazon has it. It's an awesome reference book. It will clue you into times of day and different days of week, but don't let that worry you. Sometimes when we know too much, it's like it will stop us from doing something. Like if we know a powerful day to do a working on finances is like a Thursday, then if it's Monday and we're like, I think I need to make things happen before then, I don't want it to stop you from doing something on Monday. So even like every day of the week, the different hours of the day are ruled by different planets and different astrological influences. So if it's not a particular great day, you could find the hour of the day that would have the planetary influence that could be useful. And so you could fire your candle up using that information and get some great luck out of it. So don't let it stop you. If it's not a particular great day or great time, and you feel like you really need to do something, go ahead and just use a lot of extra imagination, extra intending, and that's going to help carry over the date, ideas. So I'm going to get over here and see if I can find more of my notes. So when you're looking in the smoke and you're seeing images, you want to just kind of be aware of, are there any faces in the smoke? Are there any, do you see like hooks or a boat or like an animal shape? And just use your creativity whenever you're doing this, because that's really where it's all at, is being able to tap into our own intuition and use our creativity there and see whatever it is that we're seeing, and be very allowing. Any of our divination that we do, you want to have that mindset that I'm one who allows. And when we're in that energetic, it's like we're just going to get a lot more bang for whatever it is that we're doing. So I wanted to show you a really quick little paper divination process using smoke divination. And so what you want to do in this particular divination is get a blank sheet of paper, and I really like to infuse the paper with your heart energy, and I think it's great to have a particular idea of what we're doing this for. Although you don't have to, you can just run it through the flames and just see what comes up to you. But I like to have an intention. So for instance, to connect to one of my spirit guides and just get some insight. So you would hold that over your heart center. So our heart energy, anything that's truly important, we want to somehow or another get our heart energy infused into that. So we call upon our guides and ask them to maybe give us a sign or some sort of a symbol or some sort of a message that can answer whatever it is that's on our mind, like whatever question that we're wanting to put out there. And then whenever you feel like your heart has really like done its job, then you want to be very careful that you don't set your paper on fire, but that you hold your paper over your fire, over the flame, and that you allow it to get the flame on there just a little bit, like not a lot. Like you don't want to put your flame out, and just randomly put it over there and see what you get. So my sister and I did this a couple of weeks ago. We had one of our horses was running a race. And so I felt really good about his race, but we wanted to experiment with this. So I wanted to just see what we got. And we actually got like a number 3. And I really didn't want to accept that because I wanted the horse to win the race. But honestly, the horse ran 3rd in the race, which was good, out of like a 9-horse field. So once you get your smoke on there, and so I didn't really get enough flame. I'm trying not to put out my fire, so I didn't get enough on there. But just get it low enough that you can get a little bit on there, but still you don't want to put out your flame. If you did put out your flame, just fire it up again, and ask that the element of fire that it bless you with this essence. So what you're going to have is quite a menagerie of images on there, and I know you can't really see them on here, but honestly, the first thing that I saw, it just looks like a mad horse. Sometimes horses get cranky and they will wrinkle their forehead, and they'll just like cut their eyes at you and just give you a look like, hey, feed me, or whatever it is. But it looks like a mad horse to me. So I don't really know what to make of that. But you want to just dive into the symbols, the feeling that you get. Always weave in your feelings on a subject. Like, do you feel nervous about it? Do you feel anxiety? Do you feel like now you can feel your heart is lifted? What is it that you're feeling? A really cool thing that happened a couple of weeks ago, I was working with this and experimenting, and I got an image of a face, and it looked like an Oriental man, and it had like the little Fu Manchu mustache, and he was winking at me. And so I have an Oriental spirit guide that's one of my, really big gun teachers. And so I know what I ask now. I ask that I have inspiration in creating the material for the class, and some support from my guides, my teachers, and my angels. And if it was going to unfold in a good way. And so it's like he winked at me, like, but my feeling is that, yes, we will inspire you, and we will help you to have the energy and the wherewithal to pull it all together, and basically that you've got it in the bag. So that made me feel good. And so that's another reason to do this. Another thing you can use is a plate, just a plain old dinner plate or a saucer, and you just run your plate over your candle. Try not to smother it out. It's not going to be the end of the world if you do smother it. I'm trying to get it close without knocking it over there, and I did put it out. So anyhow, I have a letter in here. It looks to me like the letter E, possibly, but it could also be like a dolphin. That's kind of cool. So you could interpret that as a dolphin. The dolphins are very evolved mammals. They're considered to hold the sacred dream for Grandmother Earth. So they're very, very special animals, and I'm very drawn to them. So it's kind of like a way of us being able to link to some of the evolved animals that help to hold the dream for Grandmother Earth. And it's like it helps us to tap into their wisdom and their knowledge, and we can pull that out and put that out into our communities and help support the overall world and our overall goal and the sacred dream for planet Earth. So that is a really cool little symbol. So this is just a handful of ways that you can use the smoke, the fire, to divine things that are on your mind. But again, the intention of why you're doing what you're doing is going to, that's going to be paramount in your success. And always remember to be respectful to your fire. Thank you, salamanders. Thank you, fire spirits. So the salamanders are like the little animal energy in there. And so always say thank you. And I think that goes a long way in getting success, continued success with your divination process. So I'm not seeing any questions on here right now, but if you have questions that come up, then you can send them to me in an email or message me here on this this page, and I'll do my best to answer them, but I'm not seeing any right now. But I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation today on the smoke and the fire divination. It's a lot of fun, and it can be a great sense of support to kind of help you maybe brighten up your life whenever you're feeling down. You can just add that elemental energy. And I really feel like it feeds our soul. It nourishes us like nothing else. Like anytime that you want to bring something special to your living room or to your dinner table, just light some candles and ask that they burn for the highest good of everybody at the table today. So that's a very, very simple divination practice that we can all put into our life every day. And then while you're having dinner, it's like, watch it work its magic. And it really is amazing. So, well, I hope you've enjoyed this series, and I look forward to hearing from you and hope to see you real soon. Thanks a lot. I'm Marvina Meek. Bye-bye, everybody. Thanks for hopping on live. I really appreciate it. We'll see y'all.